Could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Wonderful. Our Vice Chair could start us off.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, folks. Welcome to our February Planning Board meeting. Congratulations to our Vice Chair.
Thanks.
The new mom. We're so excited for her. So everything's good?
Everything's going well, I think.
Great.
Yeah.
You should be happy if you called her an old mom. But
So we have board business to start off with, bills and payroll. While we're doing the bills and payroll, we can do the minutes. I had an opportunity to read the minutes. I thought everything was perfect.
I wasn't here, so I'm probably going to abstain.
Well,
from
so the minutes were from when you were here. They are from,
June 8th and August 8th.
Oh, I thought they were the recent ones. That's right, they're right
we're
here.
playing catch up.
Okay.
we have enough to vote.
We can vote the minutes in.
Pardon?
We have enough to vote the minutes in.
Say they're informative and progressive and accept the minutes as written.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 The minutes are approved.
Thank you.
So, any public input? Okay, no public input. So one of the things we were talking about discussing tonight is the planning board regulations and special permit application forms. Has anybody taken a look at those? I spent some time on them this week. So when I was reading through them, I had a couple of things I was looking at, and I think one of the first things that we should discuss, Section 2.8 of our rules and regulations for special permit and site plan review. 2.8 absences, there's a typo.
Yeah. Double
BB4.
Bs.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's that. Then I had a couple of questions.
Discuss that.
And I know that, and this is more of a management or clerical question, but
Sometime put it on.
when it says, I go to section 3.3331, drainage calculations, supplemental plans, if applicable, it says 3 copies. I'm just curious where those 3 copies end up.
Usually one is my file copy, one is, goes to the engineer, and the third is available for anybody to look at.
Okay, I'm wondering if we can, as we move forward, if we can start doing some of this electronically instead of getting a paper file. If we could put it on an electronic document for storage, so we're not storing rolled paper or folded plans. Just thought it's something we should look at if we want to keep one hard copy through the process and then make it, recycled when the project is completed. So I was hoping we could take a look at doing some of those things to lift the waste of paper that goes through a planning and permitting process.
Yeah, I like that. And actually, now the engineer likes electronic copies, so if we could bump that back down to 2,
Okay.
then we've got 1 record copy. And
Can you store a electronic copy? Could you take it on a CD? I don't think so.
well,
My
and
experience-
actually, down on H, we've got the requirement of electronic copies of
in a
everything.
PDF format.
Yeah.
Can we store PDF, or do we need to, because we store it in a CD? Because if you lose your hard drive storage, you won't have a copy.
Well, everything's backed up to the cloud, so
Okay.
we're,
It's there.
yes,
Someplace.
What happens if the sun comes out?
there you go.
I don't trust that crap.
I'm old school myself, so.
Well,
But I get
so-
it.
So one of the
They
other
say
things,
put it in writing. They don't say put it in the computer.
they don't say put it in writing anymore, though.
Well, then they
They
are.
said send me an email so I can have a electronic,
So I can print it out and see what it says?
no, so I have a hard file copy of it.
Yep.
Me and the new mom are old school.
And I appreciate it. I can appreciate that.
I think it's a good move, though. I guess that's the way that the world's going, so.
So,
I'm sure you generate a lot of paper, like more than we'd want to know.
Yes.
so if we can start making some changes in that direction. then
Yeah,
we-
well, we're down to 7 copies from 10, so,
And that was my next question. Why 7?
so that each of you can have one, and town clerk gets a full set, and I have a full.
So that would lead to my next question.
Can we just cut to the chase here? Would you want to eliminate, toilet paper and everything else?
No, toilet paper is important. That being said,
Oh.
I have a tablet and I have a laptop. I'm not sure if the other members have one that's available, but if we could bring our own and have those in PDF sent to us, we could save that paper as well. So I'm willing to bring in my own. If other members would be willing, then,
Well, if we want to go the tablet route, the town could provide the tablets, we could load the information on that.
I
It's
think that, I mean, if that's
try-
not, I'm not looking to spend town money. So if there's tablets available, I would say great, if they're provided to us because we're spending money on a plan, and the tablets were no cost to the members, I'd be willing to look at it, but if there's a cost, I'm not looking to add a cost to what we're doing, so.
Well, if we can offset the cost of making some of the copies, then much farther ahead. What I want to avoid is some of each, some paper copies and some electronic
Yeah,
copies.
it should be consistent.
Yeah, and I think that's up to the board members if
You
everybody's
might find
comfortable.
it's part, yeah. You might, I know like with some of the other committees I sit on, it's very divided because you have old school versus new school, but would
Why do you look at me like that for?
Because we agreed on,
Because you are old school.
but
Thank you.
I'd be willing to bring a tablet in, but I can't speak for the people that are here.
Right. So, I knew why there were 7, I just wanted to get to the idea, maybe we should be doing it electronically, if possible. And then I wrote a note here.
See, if it was on a computer, you could read it easier. You can't read
could,
your own
too.
writing?
No, this is, I'm trying to get used to these progressive lenses.
Is everything out of whack when you wear them?
Mm-hmm.
I had a pair that, something that was rectangle turned into be a isosceles triangle, for Christ's sake, so I'm trying to look through them.
On 3.5.3, if we read that one,
Where you at?
project review fees, hiring an outside consultant. When the funds go into the account 353, and they drop down to what is it, below 25%, it says that the applicant's successor in interest, so it's an interest-bearing account that goes back to the applicant if the funds aren't spent on the third-party review, is that correct?
Correct.
I guess my question is, how much, so I'm looking for an average, and it can be a guesstimate, do we end up spending on third-party review for a 25-house subdivision, whether it's open space or conventional?
For a subdivision from peer review all the way through construction, because we use the same account for peer reviews, well, for engineering reviews and for construction inspections, 20 to 30,000 for the whole process.
20 to 30,000 for
Right.
peer review. Okay.
Usually broken up into different
Stormwater.
task orders. One will be the preliminary review, the definitive review, and then the construction inspections,
Have we ever been stuck with a bill? So, in your opinion, this works well?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
All right.
The contracting process that's behind it is a little cumbersome, so trying to figure out how other towns do it to make it a little less cumbersome, a little easier to manage.
355, the last sentence reads, "The required time limits for action upon an application by the board shall be extended by the duration of the administrative appeal." I just wonder, how long is that administrative appeal?
That's a process of going to the Board of Selectmen. As long as the selectmen take to decide, do you want to set a?
So I
Time
think
limit?
everything should have a time limit. I don't want anything to be extended out indefinitely.
Yeah.
It's not fair to anybody, either this board or any applicant before the board, so. You guys.
I agree with that.
So.
So,
I would recommend 60 days. So it gets 2 meetings to do it. And if the quorum can't be held by a selectman for whatever reason, to be allowed to extend it for another 30,
within 60 days.
with a 30-day extension if needed, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Actions by the board, 5.6, when we get to decisions. I put, and when I read this, I laugh because you do all this work, Martin, and then our clerk signs it, so I think it should read more that the admin does the work and that the clerk reviews and endorses it, or to some effect. So it's not saying that the clerk actually has done this, because I think it's misleading. We should, although it might be the clerk's responsibility, you've done a good job at it, so it should be noted that you're doing the work.
Okay, so you say. Of clerk. Okay.
And in that, on 562, I just wanted to add where it says, the clerk will send copies to the following boards: selectmen, planning, assessors, town clerk. I thought the fire department, and the building inspector is on there, but I thought the fire department should be on that list for a lot of the,
Okay, so, right, so these are the copies of the decisions.
but if they've had input for the decision, you know, if they've had input on road width or requiring hydrants or sprinklers in the structure because of road length or anything like that, that I
The
thought they should
selectmen
be.
to tell us what we should do.
What's that?
Yeah, but this is after the fact.
You're right.
Yeah, and.
Right, we've already completed the review process. I just want to
Okay.
make sure that the fire department's informed as well, if they've had input on it, so.
Sure. And we're determined appropriate by the board to other town boards and departments. Does that cover it, or do you want to be more specific?
I thought it was important to list the fire department. It was my feeling when I read it then, so
Sure.
if anybody feels differently, then.
Don't overburden them.
And actually, we'll take the planning board off.
Anybody.
Well, do
Yeah.
you want copies of all the decisions, or do you want,
No,
okay.
no, not unless I can get it in a PDF on my tablet. And then that leads us to filing fees for Appendix A. And we no longer have 55 and over housing developments with a fee unless somebody's actually going to propose one through the state requirements. I think it should be reworded to be the senior residential development. And then I'd be looking for input from the board on what the fee should be, if any change from what they once were, as a 55 and older development. Currently, the cost is $1,500 for the fee, and then $150 per unit.
plus 150 per unit.
Right. And what we usually do is if it's, for example, an open space subdivision and a definitive subdivision application, we don't double bill, we don't charge both fees, you figure out the total fee. And
What do you mean you don't charge both?
because, well, if it was a senior residential development that also required a subdivision,
It's a one-time fee.
yeah, you
And
figure
the
out.
cost difference between the two is?
It depends on the size of the project or the length of the roadway.
Put it in the greater of the two?
Yes.
Is that in there? It's just a
We
common
should,
practice? Up to date?
well, actually, under open space development, fees paid for open space special permit applied toward definitive subdivision plan fees. I guess I should have asked the question, do you want to add a similar note to senior residential developments? Because some will also require definitive subdivisions.
I think that would be fair to the applicant. I don't think it's,
If it doesn't change the amount of work that's necessary on our part, then that's fair.
Well, by practice, what we've been doing is combining all the hearings together at one time, so reviewing the project as a whole.
we're not having them come in piece by piece for it.
Yeah.
That was my comments on the fee structure. So if you want to reward that, we'll take a look at it for the next meeting.
Okay.
And then my next comment was, we get through the Appendix A. We have the basic application, which is, everything looks good, and then the senior residential development application, I just thought that that fee should be present on the, somewhere in it. I think you'd know best where to put it, but I just thought it should be present so that they're aware when they, because somebody might only stop in and pick that up or download just that one
Yep.
off the website. So,
Yeah, can add that.
the application to the planning board for the inclusionary housing form, I really like that. I like that we have it.
Yeah, this is, I'm tickled about it too. This has been a long time coming. A lot of work by previous boards as well.
And then we get into the non-medical marijuana. We've got a opinion written by KP Law that we're looking at, and that was to go out to all municipalities in the state. Is that right? Did everybody get one, or is this just something we selected to review?
That was handed out at the MMA conference at a session. It seemed to be very comprehensive as far as being very good at describing, figure out where your town is and where you want to go.
Right, so I am somewhat informed, only because I've read this and I've had conversations with individuals who are in the industry, and had conversations with some constituents. Have you guys had a chance to read this at all? If you haven't, it's fine. I just want to, if you haven't, I would like to have a chance to discuss this maybe at our next meeting, because we do have to,
Yeah, what's the deadline on that?
well, it's coming. We have to take a vote pretty soon on what we're going to do for zoning on it, and what we're going to propose. So we need to take some time, which is going to lead me to the next thing about another meeting.
Yeah. It's been suggested that the planning board and board of selectmen have a, should I say it? A joint
I
meeting?
love it.
Okay, have a joint meeting on the recreational marijuana. Thursday, February 22nd has been raised as a possible date. Wanted to check your schedules and see if that works. And we need a framework for what the town wants to do. We will need, yeah. It's a long discussion.
Peter, we're talking about recreational marijuana and having to have a joint committee meeting with the Board of Selectmen.
Wouldn't you say dual?
We could, but that wouldn't be fun.
Well, what are we supposed to do about our new Attorney General or whatever having issues with enforcing the federal law?
We can't predict what they're gonna do. We can only prepare ourselves for what we're gonna do and what the new state law says.
When's our moratorium up, May?
No, December 31st, but in order to get to wherever we want to be by December 31st, town would likely need ballot vote and meeting, the town meeting vote on a zoning bylaw. It turns out the draft regulations by the Cannabis Control Commission say that you need to have your zoning bylaw outline on the ballot vote. So that's why the town needs to decide what, the framework for
Because
what
we
we're
need
going to
to,
do.
we need to construct zoning in that bylaw.
I want to see what, I mean, I haven't really heard what our townsfolk think of.
So the original vote to legalize
Right.
was 75% of the voters supported it, I think. It was over 70.
I would have to check that number. We could get those numbers for
We-
the,
yeah,
but
so
since- I mean,
my
it's-
recollection is it was over 70%.
But since then, we haven't really engaged in a conversation.
right, and
so.
this next meeting would start that process.
Conversation.
Hard
with-
though, I know, but it's so hard at dual meetings to hear everybody out.
Well, it would be the meeting, obviously we would open up the public hearing, but I think that important would be to get the input from the selectmen and us to come up with a process to move it forward. No decisions being made, just a discussion to be started. So. So I want to encourage my board to take some time to read this before the 26th meeting, if we can schedule that for our dual meeting with the selectmen. And can people make the 26th?
It's
She said it's
22nd.
22nd.
Thursday, February 22nd.
Oh,
That's,
so I heard 26th.
Yep, that is school break week, holiday, Monday holiday. So,
So how can you have it then? Aren't people going on vacation?
well, because it's always up to you when you would like to have it. The selectmen are not meeting that week. They're meeting the following week they have 2 meetings in a row, their own meeting and then a joint meeting with the finance committee.
It's pretty tough to do it on school vacation week.
We could move it to the last. No, there is no last. but the
You have a
first, but-
regular meeting on March 1st already.
Right, so could we move it?
What do we have on the march? Can we do it as part of?
We need to get moving on it. And plus, we have other business I think
Yeah,
we're gonna need to
it's-
address.
March 1st is already getting pretty full.
Okay.
And the warrant's going to close, well, it'll be a while, but to allow time for, fuller discussion.
Right, and then we get the 8th and the 15th before the 22nd.
Yeah.
I won't be here. I'll be gone.
Okay. Can we pick another day other than a Thursday that would work for you? Maybe the 26th?
Yeah, that's better.
That's a Monday.
I can't do the 26th.
Okay. 27? Are you traveling that week?
Yeah, I'm
You're
gone.
that week, okay. Back for the 1st, all right?
Yeah, I should be.
Best. Okay. And we need to find out what Richard's schedule is. A few folks have come in since we started the meeting. I just want to let you know, Richard's not attending the meeting tonight because he went to California to watch his daughter race, which in their world is like the Super Bowl for what she does. So I wish her well. Glad Richard took the time to go do this. I think it's something that's important, is spending time with your family. So wanted to put that out there.
It means I can go home and hang out with my kid?
No, you got work to do.
People stealing my life. All right, then. Is it 6:30? Is it time for our next meeting?
So,
It's almost up.
well, I just want to try to pick a date before we move forward, that's all. Unless you want to do it through email with Maren.
I could do after the 1st of the month. I mean, that's fine with me. If you're back on the 1st.
Well, I'm trying to get another dual meeting
Right.
in February, if we can.
You guys do it, I'll try to get back for it, but I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to, let's put it that way, if you leave it at the 22nd.
And you want to avoid school vacation week, because
I don't think it makes sense to have it school vacation week, but 'cause I'm probably not gonna be the only person away on school vacation week.
I'm usually up at Loon Mountain, but I'll come back for the meeting and travel back up. It's not like Florida.
Well, Frontier is cheap, so maybe I'll try to get back for that. I can't promise it, but I'll try.
Okay.
I want to try
So tentative for the 22nd, and we'll,
based on
confirm.
everybody's schedule.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
thank you.
confirm.
I'll try that.
okay. Okay. So our agenda item at 6:35 was a Town Fair Tire, 501 Great Road update, project update.
Good evening.
We were asked.
Could you please state your name and where you're from?
John Lupachowski with Town Fair Tire.
Thank you, John.
Bruce Ringwald, GPR for Town Fair Tire.
Thank you.
We were asked to provide an architectural board with some of the features that are going on in the building. Very simple. There's only basically 4 features. We're starting off with a granite round face masonry unit for the first 2 feet. And then there's a 4-inch by 16-inch masonry unit for the next 10 feet. This here is the color of the windows, color of the doors. This is drive-it, which is approximately 3 feet here. And the remainder is a asphalt shingle timber line type for the remaining 6 feet.
Is that second one brick or is that cement siding?
Which one?
Second one, the red.
The red is this.
It looks like brick.
It is.
So that's-
Well, it's a masonry unit, 4 inches high by 16 inches from a distance. It looks like brick. We do that for that reason. So it's not. This is a regular 8-inch by 16-inch masonry unit, ground face for the first 2 feet, just to give it a little.
I have to say, I like the ground face better than a regular masonry unit. It looks nice.
That face you're showing, is that a cut edge or is that the finished face edge?
That's the ground edge.
This is the ground.
They grind it to make it look like that.
Is that the finished face?
Yes. There'll be a seal over it, gives it a little more sheen. But that's the finished bit.
It's not textured.
No, it's flat. It doesn't
Those ones are
look.
individual pieces, 8 by 16,
Yeah.
hand laid.
First, there's 3 courses to that, makes it 24, and then there's, these are some, it's 10 feet, and these are 4, so I mean, there's 20 courses.
So your garage doors are basically 12 feet, 12-foot doors?
Yeah.
And the next thing up is just the
We gave you
white.
the feature, you know, that window we were talking about on that side, and we put the hips on there, and, you know, and these are the plans that will be submitted that match this, so I don't know if you want to copy these, or what with that.
That will show that in full scale?
Uh,
Or is that just the plot plan?
This was just architectural drawings, you
Can I
build
see
off
it?
of this.
Your neighbor to the west didn't please me, so I want to make sure we can see what we're looking at.
Okay, this is your view from the point, not the point, but
Police station? That one's coming from the center,
coming from down.
going straight west. That one.
That's the
That's-
profile.
That's the profile view, but
But that right
this
there,
is.
This is that view.
Which is this, yeah.
that's the side that's facing the point.
Yeah.
No, that side's facing the traffic light, really. And then
Right.
come around, if you're at the police station, you're
Well,
looking
it's
at the
the
front
point's that
facade.
direction. The point is the asset of it, which is.
The point's gonna be seeing the corner of this and the corner of that.
Right. Perfect.
And it has real windows,
Yeah, they added those windows on that south elevation,
but they're real ones.
Yeah,
Yes.
storefront glass see-through, you can see.
not a facade. That's actually a good
Great
question.
humor was not lost on me alone, if that's what you're looking for. I'm glad to know that you're happy with the building next to him. And
I was
those,
glad to see you were laughing.
huh? What?
You were laughing.
I don't do that very often, do I?
No. Especially when the rest of the board doesn't laugh at your earlier jokes, right?
Yeah, they're all right. You gotta inform them ahead of time.
It's been funny for so long.
I don't have a problem with the building. The building is fine.
From that there, and thank you for the update. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
We're hoping that they have their closing and get started real soon, and that when the weather permits, start working on the trail stuff, you know, upgrading the trail that we couldn't get very far in last fall because it was overgrown.
Would you do me a favor when you do start on the trail, to let Mara know so she can maybe let the bike path trail committee, whatever it is, let them know that what's going on? So
They're not gonna be able to bike down that trail.
No, but they'll be able to walk down it. They're an interested
Pedestrian-
party.
Bicycle pedestrian advisory.
Yeah.
committee.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Appreciate it, just so that other people, if they wanted to volunteer, you might get some free labor out of it.
There you go.
So, we do have a lot of volunteers in town. So. Like to include them if they could participate.
Boy Scouts, different Boy Scouts.
We could bring those guys down too.
I heard you went camping, but you should have went a month ago, and then you would have been.
With a real freeze up.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
It was a thaw. It was nice. The boys did well.
Go.
Any input, Peter?
I thought they raised that up. What's the pitch of the building in the beginning?
Texted me at 6:31. I was only a minute late then.
That was raised up from what it was, right? This piece
What was
here?
raised?
This is raised up.
The main, that's only a 4 pitch on that, right? And the other one is
He's talking about this.
312 on this. Is that what you mean?
No, he's talking about this.
or both of them, one's a 4 and the other one's a 3?
You wanted us to lower it down because you didn't want it sticking up
Right,
above.
above.
Right.
Yeah, because the original was up higher with the awning, and now we brought it down.
I didn't want to see Town Fair tires sticking above the back roof, but I thought the back roof would actually grow, not so much that that would drop down. That's what
I
thought.
think.
Just, I don't know, again, it's just it's an optical delusion. What are you laughing at that one for? That wasn't all that funny. You all happy now?
I'm just getting reacquainted to your humor, Peter, that's all.
Black humor?
Instead of a paper
You want to
copy.
hold on to these?
No,
No.
I'd rather see him come in a PDF. That'd be great.
Okay.
I'll take a motion to accept the, it's just an update. We don't have to
Yeah.
take a motion for anything. We like it.
You need to motion on that because this was in your conditions that we bring this in.
Works for me.
I'll make a motion that we approve the architectural renderings as presented.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 There you go. Get the
Can
planning
you leave
board
that in
seal
the
on
office until completion?
Sure, we'll take those samples.
Sure.
That'd be great if you don't mind leaving that.
We got puck right
Yeah,
here.
thank you.
And you want this
More
sent as a
junk.
PDF.
That'd be great, thank you.
Thank
So we're
you.
done?
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Good
very
night.
much.
All right. Hurry up, close it so you can get started. We need the tax revenue. 640 A&R. Parcel abutting 11 Elm Road.
This is town-owned property.
So you get to present.
Yes.
Please state your name for the record.
Yes, sir.
What, this is town-owned property, what's happening to it?
Okay, Elm Road is one of the properties that was added, the selectmen added to the abutter lot program. Town meeting approved part of it going to the neighbors who are looking to expand. I think it's a accessory apartment for family members. And this allows them to include the septic in a better location. Town meeting approved the transfer of the property, and this is just one of the steps to get that to help that to happen.
We need to sign that one and this too?
Yeah, if you would sign
Sign a paper and a Mylar or just a Mylar?
the Mylar, if you wouldn't mind signing like two of the paper ones, that'd be helpful.
What is Elm Road?
There's a little, both of these, just,
Yeah, we signed two of those in that one, but he's asking where it is, so.
do you want me to find the map of that one?
We got it. Can we sign in blue or does it have to be black?
Blue's fine.
Zorro.
Do we have to sign it in order?
No. Anyway,
I have to get a new signature.
why is that?
You want to do this fast, isn't it?
We just put a big Z on it, like Zorro or something. Or an M, flaming off to letting off to nowhere, so. There you go. Oh, that one was terrible. That one was
I know, I didn't like that one either.
like you're having a heart attack on that. Look at, look at 2-year-old
It's not
with
a
that.
Z.
That's complete.
Thank you.
All right. 7 o'clock agenda item, modifying sign criteria at the point?
No.
Oh, no, I'm jumping, huh? Oh, 6:45. Oh, I thought we were catching up. 6:45. Discussion regarding sidewalks. Who do we have to talk about sidewalks? Just us? Nobody presented?
I had asked for materials ahead of time, wasn't available.
So the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee would like to discuss funding for sidewalk improvements.
Apparently, they have some recommendations for a program that Acton has in place. I have yet to receive that information, but certainly happy to
Well,
reschedule with the chair.
Joe, why don't we
$2 million
reschedule?
bridge over Route 2A there. Can we get one of those maybe for fun?
Couple of $1 million, why not?
No, let's not talk about spending more money.
All right, let's just put them on the next one.
Well, while we have this item on the agenda, and even though they're not present, I'm all for having this discussion, but I also am curious, didn't at one time the planning board have a sidewalk fund that we were contributing to?
We did. Turned out there was problems with the way that fund was set up, and so it was discontinued. But certainly, if there are other programs in place, other towns that have a program in place can learn from them on the way to make that happen.
What
What was
we
the
used,
problem with ours? You're the one who set it up.
No, it was something about whether it needs to be a revolving fund or what. So.
we used to take, if they wanted to waive the sidewalks, we get a fee from them for that, put it in the sidewalk fund for other places to fix sidewalks or add sidewalks somewhere else.
Yeah.
Which is what we should still do.
Well, now with the complete streets, there's got to be a sidewalk and everything, correct? So there goes that. The funding of anything sideways is moot.
I don't think so. Complete
Right.
Streets, is state funding that will help, but if you're.
We can generate more funds to repair,
So you're telling me
improve,
when
or,
someone comes in with a subdivision and needs sidewalks, we're going to say you don't have to put the sidewalks in, but you can give us money in lieu of?
That's always your decision if you're going to grant waivers.
Right.
right, I don't know that I would want to grant waivers for sidewalks in the neighborhood, but
Then how else are we going
They
to
might
fund it
ask
if we
for-
don't waive them?
because they might ask for other waivers. And at that time, we could maybe say, okay, if you want a waiver from granite, let's say, then we could say,
No waivers from granite.
so, well,
Not in my
so,
book.
right, okay, but in something, if somebody wanted to propose or request a waiver, we could still ask for funds to be contributed to.
Something other than that, what they were intended for? Kind of like the excise tax? That idea?
Well, who wound you up today? Today.
Today, this is every meeting, it's the same.
Just having fun.
Jesus.
Like dark humor.
So we will continue this discussion, and hopefully we can get a member to attend. That would be wonderful. I look forward to continuing this discussion. So
Thank you.
next meeting or maybe March, whatever they might be able to attend.
Okay.
We'd be certainly
Sure.
happy to entertain the
They
conversation.
weren't allowed to attend this one?
They were invited. They actually requested, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they fell off their bike and couldn't come.
Who falls off their bike?
I guess I'm the only one idiot who falls off his bike, but that's beside the point.
Did you? Is that how you hurt your arm?
Yeah.
I thought you rode stationary bikes. You fell off a stationary bike? Oh, Jesus.
No, never mind. I'll tell you after a couple of beers.
Moped?
All right, 7 o'clock.
I was on a big hog and I tipped it over.
Hey, look.
7 o'clock, we up to 7 already? Wow, time sure flies.
You having fun yet?
Now we are.
All right.
7 o'clock, modified
crack
sign
that
criteria, the points.
Evening, Tim Power with Land Strategies. Some handouts.
Your strategy.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, Tim.
Want one,
Yes,
I got
yes,
it.
I do. Go, thank you very much.
Tim, wouldn't this be more helpful if you could just email tomorrow and we could have it on a tablet in
Oh,
PDF
Jesus,
format?
it's
And then you wouldn't have to print all this paper and we could save more trees.
We certainly can do that, I just wasn't sure if we do
No, no.
have it. We have both.
Just wanted to know if you thought that was a good idea.
It is a good idea.
Thank you.
And you'll let me know where you want to start with it.
Sure. So I guess I'll give you the background of why we're here quickly, is that we actually got a comment from Roland that there was a sign that didn't comply with the original sign standards, but it was something that we thought we had presented here sort of informally as an update that we were looking to do, but there were some inconsistencies here. So Roland really asked us to review what we've done to date, what we maybe have talked about here with you in the past, and sort of clean up the document. And he certainly said he was willing to work with us with whatever we do, but wanted to have a nice, everything clean. So just provided a quick cover letter that stated that. And then what you have in the packet is a fully revised version of the sign standards that were approved with our special permits, and some figures to go along with it to support both documents. Then just to know what had changed is a second document with some yellow highlights of what language changed, so you can know what we were looking to do. That might be the best one, the modified, to look at. And then behind that one is just what is currently approved, so you have sort of a baseline of what's there. The figures are that are attached. The first one is just an example of the signs we've always had, includes some of the signs we've put up or talked about planning to put up. The second figure with the building elevations and all the green spaces is something we've defined here, as sort of a project identity sign. The graphics, the banners for the things like the special events when we put up the big ice skate for winter skates, or some eat at the point type things and whatnot. And then the third is just the site plan of where some of these major signs are located. So.
So the sign in question, or signs in question, is there any particular one that,
So there were no, the specific changes we heard were tried to be general in nature, same way we'd written this originally. But some of the things we've talked about, like there's been some logos that we wanted to put next to tenant signage, and originally it said the logos can't be any larger than lettering, but it seems things like the Starbucks sign and the O'Neill Cinema sign and one of the logo feature that was a little bit taller. So we've sort of simplified that, but it does not exceed the total signage we've allowed of the 2 square feet per linear foot of the building facade. Window signage was one. However, we've talked about putting up some window clings or other professionally prepared signage that retailers seek to use on a regular basis. I think we were hoping to prevent where people taping up, 8.5 by 11 saying "sale today" type thing. If it's professionally done and presented well, then we're okay with it. So we wanted to clarify that with the board, make sure that was okay. On top of this, we pointed out, I wanted to note that we have our own more restrictive signage criteria beyond this. This is just sort of the stop, the end of the line or whatnot for the town to approve. So I can go through them quickly, I guess, at the on the highlighted page with the highlighted texts. The first group there is just that we've added a language that the planning board has the ability to, if there's a tenant or signs that we think is presentable, not quite consistent with this, we can bring it to the planning board and you guys can speak to it, allow or deny it or whatnot. Moving down to some of the restrictions, the no exposed raceways, wires, troughs, which we don't want, but we came into some situations where elements behind the building prevented that, so we wanted to have the ability to use those when necessary, as long as they're disguised and not clearly shown there, but done in a tasteful way. The contents, we tried to clarify this a little bit. Specific point that would come before with Taka, the Asian hibachi place, that we wanted to have some identifying labels there of what it was. There was hibachi, so it's a general statement of merchandise is there, but not specifics, not chicken teriyaki, right? It's a hibachi type restaurant or a sushi type restaurant, or if it was a salon, some name with that it's a salon, that's okay, but specific items for merchandise for sale, we wouldn't list in the signs or slogan. So we tried to clarify that language. The side, item C with the size is still the 2 square feet per linear foot, but I think we had expressed the need to have the signs. The buildings are very four-sided, especially in the middle, so we tried to clarify that it's the 2 square feet per building side, and not just the very front side of the building that's there, and then it maxes out for whatever the tenant sign is, and if there's any other window signs or blade signs, that it's still 3 square feet maximum per the building facade. Just going down quickly, the signs, all signs within the storefront professionally prepared, including window clings. Took away some of these restrictions, number 2s and 3s that are there, just trying to simplify that language. And then lastly, that where we define this project identity signage, we put up there's areas on buildings that we want to put either a directory type signage with whoever's up on that level, multiple tenants, or be able to hang up the banners that doesn't count against this 2 square feet per linear foot, because they're a project identity, they're events and major features. So site signs, we just, again, some of the images we presented before with the horizontal directories and other tenant directories, so we just added language there to include that for site signs. On the last page with 4, 5, and 6, we bring up that we've the project identity signs that we're not going to exceed 25% of a building facade. The video screens that we presented, we hadn't really mentioned anywhere other than in meetings, so we wanted to note them, that we could use them as an amenity for the shopping center. And then a sign that we had out on 485 there for a while, we wanted to reference as well. Again, I think it's things that have been in place there already, things we've talked about here. I'm just trying to organize that into a final document.
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
so Roland found an issue with one of the signs there?
I think there's some violations or inconsistencies
He
with
did.
what we've approved and what's the sign bylaw
Which ones in
says.
particular did he?
The signs in the windows, and he had sent us a letter to that of that was the one that he picked up on.
So what action?
The paper in the windows.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Has Roland seen this? I'm sorry.
I'm just curious how do you resolve that? Well, the resolution for that was for Tim to come in and have the discussion with you. If you don't approve revised sign regulations, then the owners would go back and have to remove the ones that are in violation.
How many are in violation now?
I don't know if I have an exact number for window signs, but there's a,
Definitely two.
Definitely two?
Definitely two.
Which two?
I don't want to get in trouble.
Well, we're here to make sure that we can get things right, so what two do you have envisioned?
Well, the party store, right? They have all those signs in the window.
Okay, well, that's
And Market
part,
Basket's the other one, they have the paper in the windows.
all right. Now, on one of it, we have 20%, but on number 4 here, you say buildings may not include more than 25% of its facade. So don't we have a 2 square feet per linear foot, not to exceed?
so the intent there was for our project identity signs, which would, this is the graphic with the building elevations and the green
Yeah.
areas we've identified where we want to be able to hang banners and different graphics to help spice up the place.
When you say hang banners, are you saying,
So the large banner we had with the ice skate hanging down, where I think there's a big oyster there now that says "Eat at the Point" on the side of it's Building E where Sprint is. Those are the types of things that we look into. The intent of what that project identity signage is, or if we want to put like the Point logo at at the top. It's not tenant specific, but it's for the project as a whole.
you've got the 20 by 80, is that the one that you're trying to, up on the edge of 495 where you had 2 storage containers, is that where you came up with that one?
Yes.
I'm not wild about that one. That's, we'll let you get away with it when you were building it to draw some attention. I think you've got the attention. I mean, it's a great, I like it,
Sure.
but I think that's enough of that, personally.
You're talking about the storage trailers.
Yeah, that's, I mean, if you wanted to build something that was much more tactfully presented, I suppose, that to me, that's, I mean, we moved them from from when they were out on 119 originally. You had 1 or 2 there too, didn't you?
Yeah, that was replaced by now just the actual
Doesn't that look
sign,
nice?
actual
That sign? Doesn't that one look nice?
I think it looks okay.
You don't
Could
like
always,
that?
they could always, problem is they could always be bigger and signage.
Now you're
but,
really barking up the
I know.
wrong tree.
It's only, I get it, there's only so much you can do, but from,
Right. So I think I think it's a big ask, and I think that, in my opinion, the point looks great. I think you guys have done a terrific job. I think some of the standards that we've established have been working. Paper in the windows is not something that I would look to approve either. I think that it becomes blight. And I think big banners over time, if you can do all this, I mean, you're showing this, all these green spaces that could be signs or banners, and in my opinion, that would become blight. That would be too much. I think we've been flexible. I think we can be flexible. I'd rather go on a case-by-case basis. We get to see you more often. You want to bring
Sure.
something in. So,
Sure.
that would be my opinion. That I don't want to see signage blight up there. I don't want to see, it starts to look like graffiti after a while, and nobody sees it, So, a tactful, tasteful, well-placed, well-designed architectural feature being a sign is what I think would be the best way to go.
I agree with you.
I think the only issue is the window signs. That's it. Everything else they've done a great job. It's
Do you have a problem with the
Oh, I'm
storage
sorry, was I
containers?
still talking?
You're right. I apologize.
Thank you. And we know Market Basket, that's kind of their forte, is put a $3 for 5 pounds of spaghetti thing out on their windows all the time. Maybe a little less obtrusive, maybe a little smaller might be, try something, I don't know, it's gonna be a little tough for you to go back to Market Basket and tell them that those things all gotta go.
Sure, so I guess I want to clarify, because I heard no paper signs in the windows or whatnot. I don't know if all the window signage completely, if they're professionally done, window wraps or frosting on the windows, if that's
That would be
all
better.
included, or is it immediately?
Talking frosting at Christmas time?
No, I think people have done,
The iParty store has like frosted windows with signs all in it.
Never been in the building, I don't know.
It's pretty hard not to
Exterior.
see. Drive up there.
We'll take you there tonight. We'll show you. Again, my opinion is it becomes blight. So, again, if they want to come before us and say, hey, here's the 4 seasons we're looking at, and this is the 4 things we want to do throughout the year, maybe. But just to randomly have the really creative college art student doing their window designs, nah.
yeah, no, not so much.
Yeah, it's too uncontrolled and too unpredictable, and I don't think it bodes well for the town,
Yeah.
or the point for that matter, so. We don't want to make you the bad guy, I don't mind being the
People
bad
pulling
guy.
into the Market Basket parking lot or going into the shop, and if you see the sign on the outside, I'm sure they could see it, just they walk in and they go.
Yeah, and they have the
Hand bumps,
flyers handed out
2
right
for a
there,
buck.
and we all get them in the mail, so.
Sure, sure. So I guess there's some, the window sign is one thing. There were some other things in here, like the, like the general merchandise thing. I wonder if I can take another shot at this to sort of keep some of the other things that are less concerned in there.
I don't have a problem with any of them, it's only the paper ones. I'm good.
What are the other ones in specific you wish to address?
You have a question, Gene?
No, somebody has a question to ask.
While we're having a discussion, if there's somebody, I'll
wait.
you wait? Okay. No, I'll take it if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
I only had one question.
Your name?
Rob Houston, 20 Meeting House Road. So I only saw one thing that jumped out at me, and it had to do with screens and kiosks in the public area. I don't know what a screen means. We got one size there, we got another size there. I come from a big city where I've seen 20 by 80 foot screens. They're going to tell you that, that's not their intent, but we ought to put some limit on what those screens are. It's my only comment.
Okay, thank you. Going back to where you were going, and then we'll get to that one.
Sure, that's fine. I'll run through them quickly, I guess. The one, no exposed raceways and wiring unless disguised. I think I'd like to try to see if we can have that in there, keep that in there, just as a fallback
Well, I
if for
think
some reason it's
that's a
steel
building
beam.
element that can be addressed, and we won't notice it either way. You're talking about not being able to get wiring through a wall, so you're gonna put a raceway in.
Correct.
And you're gonna hide it.
We're going to hide it and paint it, things
Yeah,
like
that-
that, so.
That I would be okay with. You wanna go as a board and say yes or no, so we can give them an answer as we go.
That's
Sure.
fine.
That's just we go, I mean, you're gonna put a dozen half-inch conduits running down the face of a building, is that what you're talking?
Absolutely not. We have no intention of it. And
Then what's this raceway?
so this is, I'm trying to remember which exact sign it was, but it may have been one of the ones up above the paper store, where they had running into structural elements or whatnot, and they just wanted to be able to run conduit or something, and then we would paint it and hide it as small as it would be, so there'd be less impact to the tenants over there, or open for business or whatnot. But we definitely don't want it. I think Tavern on the Square also, the way they've done that sign, needed something to support it, and it was, I'm not sure which one of these it was. I think it technically may have been a raceway, but it's built, it looks like it's part of the structure behind it, but there's no wall behind that sign. So there's no way
Tastefully done, shown to us on an individual basis, I don't have a problem.
Okay.
Does that sound fair? Tim?
Sure.
Before we go to the next one, so you're okay with no, this is a different question. We're going back to the one I asked you originally, but I interrupted you.
Okay, what's your question?
You're okay with the storage containers up on 495 and the sign on?
No, I think they should, now that he has a
That goes to-
permanent sign out there,
Okay.
I think they should probably go.
Okay. Want to give a timeline? I'll be happy to entertain a motion.
How long did it take you to
of
put them
next
there? What did you say?
year. You said Christmas of next year?
He's generous, he's feeling generous tonight. All right, moving down the line.
Okay, moving down the line.
And I do want to visit that before we close this, so we'll get there.
Just the tenant signs may include tenants, occupants' trade name, logo, and type of merchandise or service provided, but may not include specific advertising merchandise. So again, if it's someone's
chicken
name in
teriyaki.
salon,
Right.
or, right, if it was hibachi, sushi, somebody presented before, so.
Case by case would be my opinion again on that one. We'd want to look at signs before. I'm okay with
We
everything.
don't want a
we
menu on the outside of the building, just because it says, you know, Asian, it could say Chinese, it could say Korean, it could say Irish, it could say a dozen other cuisines all under the one thing, correct? Because then it's identifying the food itself, not each individual.
I wonder if there's a way I can strengthen language, because we certainly don't want that also, but we just want a 1 or 2 line, their name in itself. You know, Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza is the company name, and that's so that they get the whole name, but the fact that it says Coal-Fired Pizza defines what they have. Or if it was Jenny's, we don't know what Jenny's is, and she just wants to have salon.
Jenny Boston, it's fancy clothes.
Fancy clothes. But,
I thought it was a weight loss thing.
That's just great.
Oh, see, Jenny.
so I wonder if
Case
I
by
can,
case.
I wonder if I can at least add, you know, more than 2 words or 3 words in here becomes a reviewed by planning board.
Yeah, I think.
So if I want to do something that says salon or day spa.
To us, and, yeah, because then we can see what the sign will say, and.
I guess I'm trying to avoid every sign that comes in.
What he's trying to say is if it's less than 2 or 3 words, he can do it as
Can
a
do
right.
it.
If it's more than that, has to come back.
Yeah.
I agree with him. Why should he have to come back for every sign?
Because hidden might look horrendous.
A sign that says Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza is not horrendous. I mean,
No, it looks good.
no, that's
Yeah,
fine.
it's their
That's
product.
what he's saying.
We
2 or
do.
3 words.
When you sign the lease with the people, make sure they have what they wanted, and then that's their name, and then you get it.
No. That's the name, yeah.
That's the way around it.
It's not hire attorneys for them and pay for them.
That's right. Some of the tenants won't, for whatever reason, won't want to do that. I can't imagine why, but,
No, I'll go. If you don't mind.
Sure.
I do have a question.
Can't you just regulate and say 1 extra line? No,
Below the sign.
no specific descriptions?
1 extra line?
Yeah.
Not to exceed the
Would you
length of
please
the
state your
existing.
name for the record?
Sorry, Paul Tokmakian, 32 Lawrence Street.
Thank you.
We have a North Street in Littleton?
Lawrence?
Oh, Lawrence.
How's your hearing?
Did he say Lawrence? I thought he said North Street. Well, what is in that other line? How many letters, how many words, how many,
Yeah, you'd have to get into all that.
you know? I think if, you know, 1 line not to exceed more letters that are in the main name, that's not fair either, though, is it?
The point?
Hmm?
The point?
No, not the point. Jenny's, Fine Clothery, Harry's,
Razors?
Great Houdini's, I don't know. Not to exceed 3 words and 15 letters? And, you know, I
I
just
think
think
it needs
case
more
by
time
case,
than us
just,
making it up right here while we're sitting
Yeah,
here.
I
I think it
agree.
needs more time.
Yeah.
I'd also like to get some feedback from Roland on this, so as we go through this.
if we had a sign bylaw that was already in place and were to describe all these things and be done with it. It's only been good.
Forever.
10
Okay,
years.
we'll go down the list though. so.
Sure. Each side of a building may have tenant signage up to 2 square feet per copy, signage of copy per linear foot of building facade. And I think this was just trying to clarify that it was not just the front of the building, because we have 4-sided buildings on some of these interior ones.
Mhm.
So it's just as you can, the visible side of the building is 2 square feet per linear foot.
So,
What are you asking for?
he
Exactly.
wants to put a sign on 4 sides of a 4-sided building, if it exists.
If it's in the middle, and you can walk around it.
Mhm.
It's our first real mall, so we gotta, you know.
Just say what's in.
I'd say the
okay.
2 predominant sides, not all around.
Yeah, well, you get a
You enter the front and the back, you don't enter from all 4 sides of this building, correct?
some you do. The theater
Well,
has 3.
if you drive by,
See, just go back.
Right. But you don't enter from the back.
I don't think we should put signs on everything. The
No.
place is really gonna look like a Christmas tree.
Yeah. I don't-
I'd
I
go
don't
with
like
2
that.
predominant sides or just the main.
So
rail
again,
in
I
the
think,
front
I
facade.
would agree with that, with the primary and a secondary to not exceed the size of the primary sign, All that being said, again, I want to revisit all of this, so.
Sure,
We'll go through,
sure.
but that would be my recommendation, would be have a primary with a secondary, and, you know, if you got 4 sides and you wanted to do,
No larger than the main facade entrance.
right, so the primary, well, I think the secondary and any sign after that should be smaller than the primary sign.
Again, if he goes by the main entrance is, 20 by 20, and then the side
And
is
Tim,
8 feet long.
I totally agree, and I think that this really brings to the forefront our need for a sign bylaw.
Oh, geez, here we go. Up in your department, a different one.
Moving on.
Sure. This is the, well, these kind of go together, but all signs located within the store shall be professionally impaired, including window clings. I know we talked about windows. No paper or any size cardboard signs are permitted was removed. It sounds like that's staying in. And this is the one that Roland had flagged. No signs, lettering, or other advertising devices shall be placed on the so-called storefront or any windows or doors to or from the premises. Was struck again in favor of some of those signs that you see there today, Party City and whatnot. I'm not sure if Starbucks has some also. Going down the line again with this sign criteria should not limit the project identity signage, such as graphic banners, building wraps, building pylons, monuments, integrated into the building architecture, which the new figure was to support. Again, that was sort of that the 2 square feet per linear foot did not go against those banners and event signs we wanted to put up.
Well, looking at the map that you provided us for the locations of the banner signs, I would say there's too many locations for banner signs, and if they were all there at one time, it would not be tasteful or pleasant to look at. If we were to limit that by half almost to start with, I would think. Again, my opinion, we should revisit it and get Roland's input. Anybody else have a comment to that one? Here, we'll move to the next.
Sure. Type of signs, pylons, monuments, and tenant directory shall be consistent with the dimensional parameters provided on the plan, which was the first figure here. The only change there was we added the monuments and tenant directory signs we've had presented before and the ones we had built before, just to define it as more than just the pylon sign. I think that's okay because it just 10x it to the illustration. It's a little more specific. And then we just moved monument up. Directional signage shall not exceed 40 square feet, and the landscape sign and not exist. That's the same as it was currently approved.
Right.
No change to parking signs. Building signs not include more than 25% of the facade for graphics and project identity signs. I think that goes back to the comment you already said.
Mm-hmm. Number 5, now we're on it.
Sure. So video screens and electric kiosks. Is the video screen specifically something we had presented at the outset along in between the DEF buildings as you come down the stairs? You're looking at a blank facade on the side of building F, which is the Masala Bay Starbucks building. There is a site plan that identifies that building.
So that's Gray Road Kitchen, stairwell.
Yes. So as you come down from Great Road Kitchen, there's a blank wall we had talked about putting up.
If you're coming down the stairs, is it on the right or the left? Is it on the E building?
It's on F, so as you're coming down the stairs, you're almost looking right at it, as if you could sit on the steps. Put it out, the idea is maybe you could put up some old movies, some other activity there, but that's something we'd always presented on doing, we had not yet acted
So
on.
it would be a screen for advertising, or would it be a screen for entertainment?
I guess for both would be the intent.
So entertainment, advertising the entertainment that you might show on it would work.
Yeah.
Wait, it's on the road side?
No, so it'd be right here on this side. So as you come down these stairs.
Oh.
So it keeps you from being distracted as a driver, which was one of my concerns when you were first talking about it, that You know, there's a lot of, one of the things I love about the point is the pedestrian traffic that is there. You know, make sure they stay safe and we don't have somebody watching videos and running somebody over, so.
Sure.
The fact that the location you're suggesting actually does make sense, in my opinion, in that if you're gonna advertise what you might show so that people might actually come and sit on that lawn or, you know, around those stairs or whatever, would be interesting. I think it would be a fun feature.
And
We could probably limit the amount of time it ran for advertising as well. I don't know if that's, again, for discussion, but a lot of this stuff is brand new to us, so.
Sure. And just another thought here, the electronic kiosks we were talking about, we were exploring the idea of we don't have any real directories, pedestrian scale directories, so on the arbors that we have, we wanted to mount like a electronic board, so as you're walking by, this a directory or other activity you see them in some other shopping centers where there's, it's
The Mall of America.
I don't know about the Mall of America, but I've seen them at Legacy Place, things like that.
I'd wanna see it.
You wanna see it, what it
I'd
looks
wanna
like?
see it. No.
What's that?
Okay.
Which one?
The last one.
Last one, an information sign may be installed along the property line abutting 495, not exceeding 20 by 8. No. Any thoughts from anybody else on that one? Okay, hearing none, we'll schedule you back in after Roland gets the review and her opinion. We'll have more time. Anything that you can submit between now and the next time you're on the agenda that we could read as far in advance as possible would be
Yeah,
great.
yeah, sure, and I'll, do you want to schedule the next meeting offline?
Sure.
Give Roland time to look at it. Yes. Okay, great.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is you land strategy?
Yes.
This is not the same.
No, this is the land strategy. This is Sam.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 7:15, continue public hearing, definitive subdivision K property.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the board, for the record, Brian Goodrow with Hancock Associates. I'd like to take a minute to apologize. Dave Guthrie is out of town this weekend and was unable to make it, and Chris Finnerall had a family conflict, so unfortunately.
Oh, I appreciate you being here. Where might Mr. Guthrie be?
That's a good question. He didn't enlighten me. I would imagine one of his
Well, I
many
hope he's having-
vacations.
I hope he's having fun.
Yeah. So I would like to take tonight for a brief update of what's going on. We opened the hearing in December of K Estates 24 lot conventional subdivision. We ran through kind of the design background, the waiver list, and just introduced the project. In the interim, Green International issued a peer review letter, and we received that, I believe, the day before, the day after the January hearing, which is why we had continued that. As of today, we're still working through the revisions for the peer review letter,
Okay.
and we anticipate issuing that in the next day or two, and then hopefully we'll get comments back from Green and be able to respond to that before the next meeting so that we can really be productive and move it forward. There are kind of 4 items that I just want to key in on. While the peer review was rather verbose, we didn't find any showstoppers, any real design changes to the subdivision. Same roads, same number of lots. We just had to basically coordinate the plans a little bit better and provide clarity on a lot of different punch list items. So the 4 key items that I wanted to bring up was there was a comment about the width of Grimes between Spruce Street and the proposed Douglas Street. If you recall, during the open space preliminary process, we had committed to widening Grimes to 20 feet in that area. It wasn't reflected on the plans, but it will be reflected on the revised plans. So we're not walking that back. We are going to be doing that. They also keyed in on the intersection of Douglas and Grimes Lane and the fact that we're altering wetlands in the roadway due to grading restrictions, essentially design criteria. The road's going to be below the wetland elevation. They were concerned about groundwater interaction and potentially altering that resource area. We are aware of the situation, and we're working through construction level detail that will be on the plan, and we are aware that we have to file a notice of intent with the Conservation Commission. We're going to be looking to do that sooner rather than later. So in the coming weeks, we will be filing with the Conservation Commission for that roadway and wetland alteration and the project in general, so we can get that process going while we're here before you during the definitive process. On the waiver list, I believe there was a little bit of confusion regarding granite roundings at the driveway. I believe our wording was such that they had assumed that we were actually going to put those in, whereas the waiver request is we're not going to put granite on driveways. The curbing that is proposed currently is Cape Cod throughout, with granite at all roadway roundings, and then sloped granite on the cul-de-sac islands. And we'd like to maintain those waivers, and we discussed that at the last hearing. And then kind of the last key point is not from the peer reviewer, but from the Trails Committee, I believe. We received a letter, and they had marked up kind of this plan and indicated where they would like to see a trail. Right now, we have a trail proposed along the back side of the property connecting from Town Forest to the open space or the deeded parcel that remains vacant, as indicated on the plan. And we basically we're not trying to put a trail through the actual subdivision. I believe the action committee wanted it to go in between lots, in between houses.
Correct, one second. Maren, do you have that, what they proposed?
See if I can find it.
Okay,
I have a
I would
hard
like to
copy.
see it. I mean,
And while we're not looking for resolution on that tonight, I can let Dave speak to it next go around on kind of the rationale behind it, but at this point in time, we're not looking to modify what
you're
we had
looking to
already.
maintain what you proposed originally?
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly, yep.
I'll keep looking at it.
If
It'll be
you
a
want,
while.
you can pull that back up, and maybe you could just point to what
Yeah.
they might have suggested, if you want to go to
Absolutely.
that.
So currently, we have our trail proposed along the back of the property line connecting to the open space. So the intent is to go from Town Forest along and then down and out through Foster Street to get to the train station. And I believe what they had proposed was to go down either between these two lots or these two lots here. At this
And
time,
get onto the road and.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And at this time, we're just not proposing to put the general public on somebody's lot, essentially in between houses.
Okay.
You know, with that said, I'm here. I'm happy to answer questions that the board has, if there's any other topics that have come up in the interim since we had opened the hearing in December. But again, I'd like to reiterate, we are addressing all of these comments in their entirety and within the next couple of days, and hope to put the vast majority of these to bed, because again, they were more housekeeping items than wholesale changes to the subdivision.
I'm built to the next meeting.
I have no intentions of making any waivers on granite curbing in any way, shape,
We've
or
already
form.
granted it. So.
No, we haven't. We haven't granted it. I don't believe we have.
Maren, can you?
Is that in there? Is that granted? We've already granted you
Voted yet
relief
on
from...
the
Yeah.
definitive subdivision. This is not a special permit process on
We
this
did
conventional
discuss
subdivision.
it
You
to
did-
match,
did
didn't we
discuss it?
discuss it and to say that it should match the subdivision that it butts currently?
Who's we? You and Mark?
Not me.
Who's
It
we?
was part of the discussion in the last meeting, Peter.
Once again, I'm not I'm voting,
We know where you stand.
there you go. Maybe we'll pick a year from now to start it. Or two.
I have no other. Thank you for the update.
That was brief.
So continue the public hearing till meeting of March 1st?
Do we have to vote?
Yeah.
I'll take a motion to continue the public hearing till March 1st.
I'll make that motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Seven 45, informal discussion, Cricket Lane, Jones Field, senior residential development.
Come on up.
Do we have a plan, Mara? I received one in the email, but.
Thank you.
Sit down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Started off with stating your name for the record and what we're talking about.
Roger Kennard, 132 Hatwell Ave. Steve Kennard, 15 Orchid Drive.
So, it's an informal discussion regarding Cricket Lane. These guys have signed and have gone into an HCA with the select board. The select board has decided to waive their rights to 61A, provided that they work within the senior residential development bylaw. And they're here to present some ideas and try to get them a jumping off point and bring something in to show us for a subdivision, senior residential housing division subdivision agreement. And here's the first two agreement.
If you're just seeing this for the first time.
This is it. So I guess my first comment tonight would be to make sure you guys get this in well in advance so that we can actually see these before we're going to have an informal discussion, so we can form some opinions and have some idea, because I know that your original proposal, when you went before the select committee, I think you guys had numbered about 20 to 25 units on the lot, and when I see what I see now, it turns my stomach. The number of units that you're showing now
31.
is 31. So,
We did show that to the select
and then it was
prior to the HCA, just for the record.
But when the one was up on, when I was at the selectmen's committee meeting, you guys were showing 22 lots. And I
Yep.
thought that was something we could work within. And now I'm seeing this, and
Yeah, when you saw the 22 lots, I believe the lot lines that go in right to Cricket Lane, some of the abutters wanted a buffer around, so we accomplished that. We also accomplished more open space through this plan than the 22 lots had. So this was put together, a lot of it was based on the feedback from the abutters. And
do you think the abutters wanted more lots?
I think that the abutters wanted more open space and more of a buffer from the houses to their property and from the houses to Cricket Lane. And obviously, at that time, everything is extremely preliminary, and we did not own the property, and no soil testing has been done. So we presented on short notice to the best of our ability, and then took the feedback from that meeting and came up with this, which of course, obviously, we like more lots, and we thought that we were also satisfying some of the needs from the abutters that based on the feedback that we had received.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments? Just looking at the first proposed design.
I mean, I heard 22 lots as well, so seeing the 31, that's a lot, but is there anybody from that area
Oh.
in front of us?
Part of the issue we got going is that we want elderly housing, correct?
We do,
This is something we
absolutely.
want.
Here's a spot where you can achieve the density you're looking for.
Well, the density is, part of the density is to make it worthwhile to both the town and the developer, because if there isn't dense enough, then there's no reason for you to be. If it isn't cost effective, there's no reason for you to be here. If it isn't advantageous to the town, there's again no reason for us to be here. So if both of these can work in reality, the elderly's favor and the town's favor, then I don't care if we can get 10,000 of them on the lot to it, I mean, I want to make sure that we get the best thing we can for the residents, for the elderly. That's what I'm after. Regardless of what you make, I want to try and make sure the best thing we can do is for them. If it means, I haven't read this, the community, we should have had it earlier, but again, you're here and that's what we got. So I'd prefer us to be able to read this and address it, and then maybe have another discussion is what I'd be interested in through the board, or through the chair, is that what I call it now?
Yes.
Mr. Red?
Any comments, Mark?
Having seen it for the first time now, I have no comments. It's nice that the selectmen put it towards us, so it wasn't decided before we got it, which is what happened in the past, so I'm hoping we can work with the developer to come up with something that everyone would be happy with.
Without reading this, and again, I got partway through it and I asked another question. You all set? I'm sorry, Mark.
I'm done.
Is the town receiving nothing more than the 30%? Is that all the town receives out of this agreement?
Well, that's the minimum, but if you look at that plan there, I think there's 4.29 acres. And here again, this is prior to any testing, but this is what...
One of the comments that I had received, and I was aware of in the conversation when the select board was mulling over how they put together the HCA, and at that meeting, one of the select members had requested that a piece of this land, maybe 4+ acres, would be farmable.
No.
So I'd love to hear your opinion. You're the ag person here, so if you got an opinion on it, if there would be, whether it would be community gardens or something usable for the seniors, or
Oh, that's an idea.
a community garden for the seniors, or something to that effect.
I have one question.
Sure.
What kind of, do you have a price range of what you think these are gonna come out at? Because that would determine whether we were interested in that many more units or where we're at with it.
Well, I'm not quite sure, Mark, but it could be anywhere from 450 to 5 1/4.
Don't do a hell of a lot for our elderly, does it?
No, it doesn't.
How many units are under our new laws?
Affordable, over 30, he would have 4 affordable units. To round up.
So at 450, Mark, what would an affordable unit go for?
Affordable unit is based on the price, on the
Median income of the...
185, somewhere in there.
Based on
Is that
the
correct?
income?
You've got an example of 60,000 times 2, which is 120 grand. And that's going to, I think that's excessive for the size of a house. I mean, if it was an $800,000 house like a Durkee Farm or something, I think you could go down that road. But 60,000 times 2 will be bringing money to the table.
How so?
Paying into the inclusionary zoning fund, but this is too big to
Because they
do
think it'll
that.
cost you more.
You can't opt into
Lot
You don't
cost,
have that option.
infrastructure.
So you would rather bring money to the table than to...
You don't have that option because of the number of units you're proposing.
Right, you have that option between 6 and 19, at 20 and above the
And you have to
bylaw
provide the affordable units.
on site.
Right. I'd rather build them.
And what would they sell at?
183, somewhere in there. The current number is somewhere around that for a two-bedroom.
And only 4 of them roughly.
4 of them would be,
The 4 of them would be affordable.
at 31 units, yeah.
If he drops down to 29, what does that do to him?
He would have 3.
So the more the better on lots. Huh?
What about 30? 10% would be 3.
3.
So the more lots, the
29
better.
would give you 3 too.
The density, though, we know we're gonna get a
But,
ton of,
you know-
once the butters who fought to first try to push the select committee to buy this, and then the select committee
Well, there's
saw
not a
it
whole
do
lot
this.
of open space there.
Well, it's there, I mean, I can see it and I can appreciate the effort. I don't want them to think that I don't notice what they've done. It's great because people have asked for the buffer and they're trying to accommodate and appease everybody that has had input. And I appreciate at 31, they're getting us 1 more unit, but I know what's coming down our wave is the wave of all those abutters coming back in and saying, that's too dense, you know.
So we get a mini bike trail around it?
No. That's pretty much what they provided as a trail around it.
Yeah, one of the questions I had was, the bylaw requires that the open space have a conservation restriction on it. So that's going to limit, what can be done on that property. If detention basins and that type of thing are on there, that's going to be a very deep discussion whether or not that's allowed in the open space area.
Okay.
With the discussion of the selectmen, they allowed it through the agreement.
The bylaw is what's going to dictate what the planning board can do.
In our bylaw has,
It says the conservation restriction is required on the open space. And the CR is where you define what can and cannot happen on the open space area.
Is it in the
who
reg?
makes that decision of what can
You
and
do.
cannot we do?
Yeah.
So according to the conservation restrictions, can, as far as those, isolate that, or how does that speak to like a drainage easement?
Well, usually a conservation restriction, if it's going to be recorded at the state has to approve it, and general maintenance activities would not be part of that. So you wouldn't include septic systems, you wouldn't include detention basins.
Might be too dense to get any of that in there.
That's my initial reaction to the, but it's hard to tell without detail. And it's always up to you to interpret.
I mean, I didn't see that in the reg.
So then, if we move away from the actual site, proposed locations of the houses, and we talk about the architectural details of the houses. I know in some discussions that I've had with you gentlemen, you mentioned Riverwalk as being one of them. Did either of you have a chance to go to Concord and see Riverwalk?
I did see some of it, and one of them actually just popped on the market probably 2 days ago. So that's kind of out there to see the pictures and,
Okay.
see a lot of it, which is good timing.
Do we have any other recommendations of locations they could look at for architectural detail? Because one of the things that we got as feedback from all of the community input that we took was garage-facing, street-facing garages were not desirable. Now, I don't know if you can take a garage and turn it to the side of the house to face the neighbor, abutting neighbor. It was just something that was deemed more architecturally desirable.
There's no room.
Possible, look at the site plan.
Garage is facing.
Not at that density.
In looking at the Riverwalk, I agree that it's a beautiful subdivision, and architecturally, it's incredible. I do want to make note that the one that just came on the market as a resale came on the market at $780,000. And I know Concord is not Littleton,
Yeah, and that,
but
but that wasn't built as a affordable.
yeah.
So.
Well, we still have a ways to go. We're still
Yeah.
sussing out our own
Sure.
bylaw. We don't even know exactly what we want out of it.
Right, but I just want to make sure that we keep in mind what the information that the community provided us, so that we work on behalf of them when we're designing these, not just
Right, we'll work together through it.
Yep.
We got a long way to go.
I think those are attractive.
Which ones? This one's you showing?
Yeah.
Just as far as separating the building so much, is make it any easier? I mean, it's got to be less money to connect a few of them, isn't there?
Well, can we get into a duplex situation? I'm trying to avoid an HOA fee here. They standalone houses, they're gonna have a standalone septic system. And hopefully we can build the road to subdivision specs so that we can have the town accept the road. And that'll eliminate a lot of the expense for the seniors living here.
What if we married the houses but had two separate septic systems? That way you can free up about 20 feet in between each building, right?
You could,
And it would shorten.
but you're living next door to Mr. X and you need a new roof.
Peter, the lots are pretty small, isn't it? They're 8,000 square foot lots. How much smaller you want to get them?
Well, no, it's what I'm saying is
Yeah, I know what Pete's trying
if
to
you
get
look at the print of the, the entire cul-de-sac there area, and how the houses are packed in, if you made them, instead of dividing every single one up, you connected a couple of them, now you freed up.
Cluster 'em.
Yeah. Or,
No, this was
I
kind of...
understand, it's, when they turned around and made apartments into condominiums, I mean, and apartments in like Swanson Road or whatever, those type of things. That's not my idea of single living. And again, but at this point in time, like you said, your neighbor, I don't think you're gonna have, hopefully at this age, and I'm ready to move in there tomorrow, but I don't think your neighbor's gonna be cranking out Kiss at 2 o'clock in the morning,
Well, you don't know about that because you're 55 years old. Your daughter or son could still be 13 or 14 or 15.
You been paying attention to my lifestyle or something? or what? Thank you. He's 17 and I'll be 60 in a couple of months. Here we are. Yeah, well, maybe, yeah, so.
I can appreciate the road that Peter's walking down. I think it's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
And maybe we can talk about some idea. I like that. I understand what you're saying about the shared expense, but maybe that agreement could be between, in some cases, just a few of it wouldn't be on, the septic could be separate, and if you get two buyers that agree that the shared maintenance on the exterior, there's a dividing line, the only thing they're really sharing is a roof.
Right. And a party wall, yeah.
Well, can't touch the party wall, they're both in trouble.
Right.
But I thought it'd actually be more cost effective to do it in that fashion, wouldn't it?
Think about it. It's
We
easy.
have to think about it. We still have design criteria we have to work out.
Right.
So we still.
It's a good first step, I mean, it's a big number that's costed. But again, you still have to find a place to put all that sewage.
No, it's individual septics is what they're proposing, so,
Once again, you gotta find a place to put all that sewage,
so.
right?
Hopefully the soils over there will be suitable, but we haven't tried it.
And when you're talking about the individual lot sizes, I believe that when you look at the bylaws and the reg, I'm not sure if it necessarily speaks to the dimensional requirements and the setbacks that you would need to create a cluster like this. When I read the regs, it's almost like it's geared towards development where there are no lot lines because there is an association or it is condos. So that might be something that we would have to look at too in terms of
Granting relief because you are providing lot lines.
correct.
We can work on that.
Yeah.
We still have a ways to go.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think we do too, but I want to just, I mean, I know you keep saying we have to work on the design criteria, but we established it in the bylaw. Oh, I'm glad I worked so hard on that in the beginning.
Well, it's, it's a very interesting concept because there's a lot of goals that come with it.
Mhm.
You know, we've got goals of open space, we've got goals of density and putting as much on there as you can, you know, so that you can create the housing. You know, got goals of keeping it individual, but if you like the density, then you marry them. So there's a lot of different ways it can go, and I think one of the most attractive things about the project proposal is that there's not many pieces in town where you can actually create the one-level living with the zero clearance entrance and one step into your front door and not having a garage under. So I think it's a good opportunity for everybody.
And without having an HOA fee.
What you've done.
I know, did a good job. It was his mother.
Okay.
Anybody have more comments? Any public input?
Anna Houston, Meeting House Road. What are the dimensions of the houses that we're talking about?
So they're all under, good question.
40 feet to the front and 54 to 57 to the rear.
Dimensions of the house?
Of the house, yeah, so how many square feet?
So living space, they're talking about just under 1,600 and then a 400 square foot garage, on average.
And is there a basement?
Yes. Full basement.
I think one of them might be up to 1,800.
But
But all of
none-
them
none of-
1,800 or less.
Right, but none exceed the bylaw requirements.
Right.
Correct, yeah.
And two-bedroom?
All two-bedroom, yeah.
I talked to Jim about that a little bit. And
Jim
also
who?
Jim Griffey.
And who is Jim Directly, for the record? That's all.
Board of Health
Okay.
with the Title V two-bedroom regs. And he would allow a flex room as long as, like, say, the laundry was in it. And it could be in a closet, you could have an office in there, TV, exercise equipment, sewing equipment, whatever it may be, crafts. But he'll allow that extra space. Or Title V will allow it.
But it's always, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 5-room, 2-bed.
Right.
Deed
Just
restricted.
like it always is. Yeah, the senior flows would require the deed restriction, which brings up another question. I know Richard had a vision of, you know, housing for the millennials too. Is there, with you guys' vision, sprinkling in, and I don't even know if it's possible based on the soils because we haven't done the soil test, but if you did sprinkle in some 3-bedroom septic systems in here, if they fit, is that something you would want to see? Or would you prefer the 55 plus only?
So it's not age restricted, but we want it age designed, so two-bedroom is the limit on it, so.
If you put
Our
the-
understanding is it will be, because of Title V, you cannot, it will be age restricted.
Right,
These are-
I think there are two different types of deed restrictions that we're concerned about. One is the age restriction. You don't have to age restrict unless you want the break in the septic flows, designed for the smaller flows that for deed age restricted. But then there's also the deed restriction on the size of the homes that would go along with the special permit. If you were to issue that, you would deed restrict the size of the homes to be no more than 2 bedrooms.
So if we deed restrict it to be no more than 2 bedrooms, would that give them flexibility with the flow rates? Because if we don't age restrict it, is there any way that we can talk to Jim Gareffi from the Board of Health agent from Neshoba, on getting them some flexibility so that, well, again, the whole idea of this is not to handcuff them in their sales, but at the same time.
Right, the process would be a variance from the local Board of Health. Jim was not very receptive to that question when I flagged it for him early on, but there is that process.
So I'd like to talk to the chair of the Board of Health if you could arrange that, to talk about that as a waiver. So.
After talking to Jim about it, we went back and enlarged all the septic areas by 90 square feet, and that would allow the flows for,
Anybody to buy the house?
So you
Not
would, you would be,
anybody.
you
Wouldn't
would
have
be.
to age
You
restrict.
would
wouldn't have to age restrict it. Right. You'd have the 110 gallons per day per
And you can meet that
bedroom.
on site. You feel like you can?
It's not
Maybe we would have to
we're
ask
after
all,
you.
so.
I mean, again, the soil testing hasn't been done, but.
Right.
based
Let us
on
know
what
how
I
that
think
goes.
it is, yeah.
And I'll be happy to reach out on your behalf to the chair of the Board of Health.
We appreciate that.
Okay.
All right, well, thanks for getting this information to us. Again, anytime we have an informal discussion, the sooner we can get this information, the more we
Yeah.
can discuss it, you know, with,
Yep.
You got that driveway coming in here, is it gonna have sight lines for that? You'll have the 300, 400 feet?
Yes.
Like that going on somewhere else, I don't wanna have an issue.
Well, that's another thing, too. I think in your subdivision regs, 20 or more homes, you need 2 means of egress. That's a waiver you'd have to get on this one. Unless your senior housing bylaw supersedes that.
I don't believe that's written into it.
It refers back to the subdivision rules and regs. So that would be a discussion. As part of the subdivision, you can waive that. I would
What's our
imagine.
determination of Cricket Lane?
I'll have to check.
I think it's a private way.
Okay, well, we're behind, ain't we?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vic, for coming, appreciate it. So that was 8 o'clock, informal discussion, King Street, senior residential development.
Nothing attached, though.
Wait.
Let me see, let me check.
King Street.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Good, how are you?
Yeah. Oh, I know, right? I'm sure she's quite anxious. Quite anxious, yeah.
It's like Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Sooner I go to sleep, the sooner it's here.
First thing in the morning, right?
Things happening.
Thank you for seeing us.
Okay, King Street Senior Residential Development, informal discussion. Who do we have before us tonight?
Matthew Field from Field Development, my wife Sheila.
Jennifer Platt?
Okay.
You have, I'm sorry also, but you have the owner of the property
Oh, dear.
represented by Greg Weber. It's Patricia Weber's property, but Greg is the son and he's representing her. And myself representing the Webers as the owners of the property.
Okay.
Sheryl Gould.
Thank you for coming.
And I for discussions are related to Sharon Scott Field.
This one's Sheila. I'm Sheila, not Sharon.
They look alike. Her mother and my mother are both mothers. Okay?
So we have a preliminary plan in front of you for discussion today, coming under our new senior residential development bylaws. Purpose of this plan is to have a development that is geared towards the elderly population in town, both on the size of the units, the accessibility of the units, their design, and the price point that we're trying to make these more affordable, accessible to our seniors in town. As you can see, it's 30 units. They're all 2-bedroom townhouses. It's a 4-acre lot. We actually have, the density would allow an extra 2 units, 32, but we have 30 shown on this plan. It would be a common septic system. We've done that on the other property in town and have just gotten that finally blessed and approved by a Board of Health agent. So that actually opens up a big chunk of open space for where the septic would be in the top-hand corner of the property.
Oh, you got it.
It shows up in pale green, but there's around all of the townhouse units, and then right through the middle of the property is grass or green spaces, and then you can see the circles where there's trees aligned in front of each of the units, as well as through the little middle green space. And unfortunately, on this plan, that area that's showing up as black hashed, that's actually part of the property, and that's all additional green space as well, particularly in that upper right-hand corner.
That black hashed area is also the septic system.
So there will be a septic field underneath that, but then it will all be grassed on top and accessible for, you can walk on it.
We just had that discussion with the Canards on Cricket Lane that the open space can't be part of your treatment facility or your drainage.
It's not part of the 30%.
It's not part of the 30?
No, it is not.
It's a bonus to the 30?
Correct.
Okay. What would be helpful, I know this is preliminary, so as we move forward, I'd like to see a plan that shows the open with the bonus density, the bonus open space as well, so that we can
Yes, sir.
talk about that.
How many acres is this parcel?
4 acres, just over 4.
4.6.
Again, I'm just going to bring it up because it was the design criteria when we were talking about it. You know, we're talking about
I know exactly what you're
garage is facing the front. I understand how the density works. I've been in the business a long time. I'm just bringing it up that if we can get creative and we can meet the design criteria that's established in the bylaw to the best of our ability while still providing the density, it would be terrific.
We'll take it under advisement.
Thank you.
So we built these units on White Street. I'm sure everybody's pretty familiar with them. Actually, Mr. Weber's mother lives in one of the units, and he can speak of the property itself. These are geared towards somebody that, it's a very different price point that we're trying to get into that is more affordable for the seniors. You take our project on Cooper Farm, those units are, just as Mr. Kennard's, they're in the 500,000 range. These are going to be significantly less.
That's good to hear.
I
appreciate hearing that. I'd like to hear a number at some point. We'll go through the process and try to get to a number that.
Be glad to talk about a number now.
Let's hear it.
They're in the low threes. Low threes to mid threes, depending upon where we end up with the architectural.
Okay.
Again, assuming that you get
Assuming I get,
that sort of density.
we have to
there.
get that density, or
Understand,
it doesn't.
understand. But that's why I'm going, I'm glad to hear that number because it makes it easier for us to walk down that road.
Yeah.
That being said,
We have,
you said with the acreage and the density allowed, there's a possible 2 more units,
they're correct, there is.
which would then provide 1 more affordable.
We hit that number on a reason.
How many units are then proposed here now?
30 units, 32-bedroom townhouses.
These units are just under 1,300 square feet. They have a vaulted living room. I've attached floor plans on the back 2 pages.
The
So
master-
30, it kicks them into the 4 units, right?
What's
Over
31.
29? Pardon?
30.
31 would kick us into the 4.
So the expectation, there would be 3 affordable units on site.
Where's the open space?
It's around the
So
Perimeter.
around the perimeter of the property, Mark.
Perimeter, and also in the very dead center, so that's sort of a shared area there.
That's lawn area, that's not open space.
It's open space, Mark.
It's lawn area.
It's calculated in the open space.
Okay. You say so.
I know so.
You build somebody a house, they usually have a lawn, they have a front yard, they have a backyard, that's lawn area, that's not open space. Open space is a.
It's
is
a condominium.
I beg to differ with you whether that's open space. But the other thing is senior housing. I thought when we talked about what we wanted for senior housing, we wanted it, if possible, all in one floor. This has bedrooms on the second floor.
It does have a master bedroom on the first floor, master bath, and kitchen on the first floor, so it has the full use for someone on that first floor. And then the second bedroom is up. But for someone who wanted to come in and have direct access, zero clearance access right off the street, they can have their bedroom, their bathroom, their kitchen, dining room, all right there.
Well, the affordability at this point in time seems like it's a more palatable number for residents of town, I think at $330, $340. The bedroom on the second floor, not ideal as in Mr. Kennard's proposal, where everything's on one floor. We're ideally looking for a husband, wife, or a widow is what we're after, I would say. You know, so this plays to that. I got to tell you that open space, calling it the backyard of this guy and the backyard of the other guy is open space. I don't go for that one, to be honest with you. I mean, with that septic, or what is that way over there to that black way over there?
That is the
leaching field.
Now, has deep hole test been done here already too?
Yes, sir.
I mean, under the septic area, even though it says it's not considered open space, I'd say that's got a little better shot at open space in the backyard of some of these places. At least inside the.
These have
they call that
basements?
thing in the middle?
Yes, they do.
Crawl spaces or full walk-downs?
Yes.
The crawl spaces are full
basement. We had very successful testing down there with wonderful soil.
Well, it has its merits, just as Rogers has its merits.
I like the price point, but
If we're getting 3, what's the percentage to get it, to keep it at 3 but drop down the number of units?
I didn't follow the question.
Well, if you added one more, we'd get 4.
Right, so anything between 21 and 30 are 3 affordable units.
Okay. And I know you said you need the number of units to meet the price point. So
We do.
I mean, I'm aware of that. Just wanted to.
Can I make a comment or two?
1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, now you know. I just felt like I just wanted to be Peter for a minute.
7 generations.
You know I've been in on all these meetings, and I have to say that, to me, Matt Field has been the poster child of our senior residential bylaw since you started the over 55 development. He and John Barbaduro, I think, were the only 2 that built under that bylaw, and Matt sold all of his lottery was completely subscribed to. Barbaduro didn't have as good luck. I don't know whether it was price point, I don't know whether it was design, but Matt's project is the poster child for senior housing in this town. It was walked downtown and everyone loves it. Mrs. Weber said to Matt, I will only do a deal with you if you emulate the product that I'm living in, because it's wonderful. She said, I've got neighbors next door. The upstairs bedroom gives me the opportunity to have either a live-in caregiver or to take care of my dependent daughter who needs some assistance right now. So the model is a perfect model. I've never seen a better product, and he does hit that price point. The attached units are necessary to hit the price point, and I think the number of units are necessary to deliver the affordability. So I think this project really has a lot of merit. And you know I've been the advocate for getting the prices down under 4 for seniors in this community.
If I can make a comment, we have 7 reservations on Cooper Farm right now. There is only one buyer that has come from Littleton. The rest of them are coming for more expensive towns, doing what they are supposed to be doing with these units, where they're downsizing, they've made money on their home, and they're coming into this product at $500,000. In Littleton, you can't do that. You know, the majority of the seniors don't have the ability to sell their house and buy a $500,000 house. They're either doing a lateral move or increasing it more. And the other point that I'd like to make is that on our condo fees on White Street, our condo fees are $124 a month, and they've been that way since we started. I'm sorry, we had one increase from 118 to 124. And that's what we're gearing to again.
The houses up at Cooper are going for 525,
They're going from they're going from 499 to 529.
529
Mm-hmm.
for the ones that you proposed, that they're already, all approvals are in place for that.
You have 7 reserved, how many are you building?
We have 7 reserved, we're building 20.
You were also able on Cooper to keep the homeowners association fees low with this shared septic system. That's one of
Correct. Our homeowner fee there is $145.
right about there.
Sheila?
146.27.
$146.27.
Maybe 29.
Architecturally, can we see a little bit more detail?
Yes, sir.
We can get a
Yes, sir.
couple elevations. Any other comments from anybody? At this time?
So you're looking for architectural, you're looking for the delineation of the open space?
Yeah. Again, I think in a scenario like this where you do have the space between the center buildings, make that available to all of them, instead of just being backyard, just figure out a way to get it a community area instead of being just on top of the leaching field.
Not a problem.
Any public input at this time?
Albert Maintain 32 Lawrence Street. What's the address on King Street again? I'm not familiar with the property.
It's behind the music store.
Oh, okay.
The address 80.
80.
Yeah, thank you.
So, can I show my favorite picture?
Please.
Townhouse style.
That's a great, there you go. How do you get to the second floor? For elderly?
So, again, it's a townhouse, but I know what Martin's thinking is that if you broke this up into condos as well, and you had, it's just an architectural idea that we're looking at, so just hear us out before you get frustrated.
I'm not frustrated.
Okay. If you did 4 units in a building like that, or 3 units in a building like that, or 5, whatever the square footage would allow, then you put a master suite on one floor, a second bedroom on the other floor, you still build the same number of party walls, you're still building the same square footage, it's under less roof. It's a possibility, so just, this is what we got feedback on from the people that participated in all the public input that we got. This was more appealing than, and I don't know what you're proposing, because we don't have an architectural, so I can't say it's less appealing.
Well, actually, with your talking, it is less appealing because the garage is facing the front. But trying to put a garage, as Mr. Montanari said, previous with Mr. Kennard here, it's near impossible to put a garage in the rear.
Yeah, and I just brought it up because it was one of the biggest feedback points we got. So maybe it's...
I mean, these are easy access. You drive in one step or 4% pitch in, We have no groundwater down there. So we can eliminate the stairs to the front porch, the farmer's porch. These all have farmer's porches on the front.
Level to the earth.
Level to the earth. So you can put the pavers right up to the deck and wheelchair right in. And they're all built with 3-foot doors and the radius of 5 feet in the bathrooms. And you know, it's truly geared for senior.
The only problem is they're all one-car garages, right?
Yes, sir.
There's some open parking in there.
So where does this wife park her car?
The driveway.
The wife?
Oh, he has the one.
In the garage.
Well done, thank you, Mr. Scott.
The driveways accommodate 2 cars.
Will the shower stalls all be handicap accessible?
Yes, they are.
Mr. Kennard, is that in your proposal also?
Yes.
It's our turn. It's our turn. He had his time.
But it does meet the bylaw requirement in terms of the parking spaces available per unit, as well as there's also, as you see, there's some guest parking spaces added in.
I shouldn't have touched this, I could use this in another 2 weeks. Oh, dang. Think I could put some M&Ms in there, no one will know?
So I think we'll look for more architectural and some more information on open space.
Yep.
If you could, what she did show, somehow get some of those features shown into what you're...
I'll take it under advisement.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for coming in,
Appreciate it.
appreciate it. And more than anything, I appreciate the price point. Thank you.
And not gonna.
Now go have a baby.
Okay, next, last.
8:15, agenda item, informal discussion, Foster Street Senior Residential Development.
Here we are again.
Mr. Shaw?
How are you guys?
For the record.
For the record, Douglas Shaw. Tensley Rod Lane, here for 245 Foster Street. You guys already have copies of this, it's just, I didn't think anybody would bring their formal copy, so.
Thank you.
Here you go.
You were right. But if we had it in a PDF on a tablet,
It'd be a lot easier for you, right?
we wouldn't have lost it. We wouldn't have done what these-
Porsche.
First and foremost, I'm here just to give you guys a couple updates, and then looking for some guidance from the board in regards to the property. Since we last talked, when we had the group session here with the other developers in town, at that meeting, I had told you guys that we didn't have anybody that was showing any interest towards an assisted living portion on this property. Since then, we've now had one company come and talk to us about potentially putting an assisted living facility on the property. Preferably, if you're looking at the plan on the 495 side, so that in hopes that he would get some signage that you'd be able to see maybe possibly from 495. This group has roughly 10 other sites in the state. To make it viable for him, he said, 75 beds would make it work for him, preferably 100.
Assisted?
Assisted.
Okay.
So I just wanted to, one, inform you guys of that,
Okay.
that we are talking with them. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's an interesting piece of news. I mean, we were excited that when you guys just offered to let the town do it, so.
Right.
I'm gonna look to our consultant and to our planner to tell us whether it's beneficial for us to manage it through the town or to have an assisted living facility come in on its own merits on the property that Doug's currently has under control.
And those people will come in with you and.
Either or.
Pitch.
That's worth a deeper discussion.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I
Okay,
have no idea.
thank you. So when, as this goes through its renditions.
Yep.
That they'll come in at some point. and
They
present.
will.
Okay.
They will.
And I'm just echoing what Peter said.
Yes, they are excited and, you know, they want to get in front of you folks as well.
Okay.
So they would be part of my permitting process.
Mhm.
So they would piggyback on me
Okay.
as far as my project as a whole.
Mhm.
So, and then the other element that I got a phone call on was in the commercial portion in adult daycare center. They have two of them already. There's one in Billerica, one in Marlboro. They've contacted me looking for roughly 6,000 to 7,000 square feet
Okay.
in the front portion. So with that, what they provide is they provide a van. They pick up their patrons. There's an RN on staff to administer medicine. They do day trips to the Cape, to wherever. So I just figured that was another good element in the whole scheme of the development.
Okay. I think the next time you come in, we'd be looking for some minor architectural renderings of what you're showing in your cottage location,
Yep.
your townhouse location.
Sure.
Even if you wanted to pick a facade for a larger building, because I can tell you, the units 1, 2, and 3 for the independent living that you're showing now, we're talking about maybe one of those being an assisted living.
Yes.
That density is significant. We'd have to see what it looks like before we would consider that. I know that you can provide us with townhouses and cottages that will.
Very simply. For the next meeting, I'm hoping to come before you with actual drawings that have elevations throughout the plans, and some schematics of what the buildings would look like. This is just a plan that we put, everything that we could put in. This, I have no desire to build what these 3 units look like.
Okay.
So, so with that, I'm kind of looking for some guidance, because I've heard a lot of different things and rumblings through town with regard to the independent living, with high density, with the MBTA, with the assisted living. Does
All right.
where does the board, I want to work with the board and make it beneficial for everybody, myself included. I mean, obviously, I'm here.
Right.
I'm in this to make money. The town needs what I'm offering. I'm kind of lost on which avenue or avenues to go.
So, I guess I'll give you my opinion, that as I look at this, I think the cottages and townhouse location on that site, just because I know the elevations, I mean, you can't see it here,
Right.
but I know that's the high side of the property.
is, yes.
And it slopes significantly down towards the MBTA
That's right.
station and out to 495. So I can appreciate that you located these at the highest portion, trying to hide anything that you might put that's larger down in the lower part. As an amenity to the townhouses and the cottages, I think it'd be important to have the commercial component there. So I think that looks good. Obviously, parking is a desperate need over at the
Right.
at the MBTA station. Outside of that, the density, anybody that has approached me or that has seen this has said it scares them. You
Of
know,
course.
It's a significant amount of units. We're looking at doing some other things with Foster Street at this time. I think we're looking to do complete streets over there, sidewalks, there's things being, so this gets better, you know, as Foster Street gets better. But I'll look for input from other members of the board if they have any opinion.
Well, I have an opinion about what what it should be.
Okay.
Having gone through assisted living and independent living with a family member and being down in Florida, visiting relatives that are in a mall down there, assisted living, independent living, dementia living, it's not so much about the buildings themselves, it's about the people that need the services. So when you have 3 separate buildings, it doesn't work. If you're in independent living, independent means you can get up, you can cook for yourselves, you can take care of yourself, you can do all your normal stuff, but maybe you don't want to have dinner, you don't want to cook dinner, so you can go into the assisted living and eat there. Having 3 separate buildings, they're more like apartments than they are a complex. A complex is integrated.
Right.
It's all part of it. There's nursing facilities there. If something happens, there's assisted living. Then you go from assisted to from independent to assisted. It's all together. You don't have to walk outside to do it. There's a common area where
So if I might interrupt, I think he addressed that in his comment when I mentioned the upper part, and he really said that at this time, other than the assisted living going in, he doesn't have an interest in constructing it yet until he gets more guidance from the board.
As you see this, correct.
Right.
it has to be a total concept. It has to be, you can't just build 100 units and call that independent living, and then put 2 more separate buildings up and have those part. They all have to be integrated together. So if you're gonna get somebody to build, to
Well,
run this.
ideally, you're right, ideally in that instance, yes. But again, if it means, I'm sorry, if it means 3 different buildings to get 3 different entities in there to get, what you're after.
But you don't do it that way.
Well, if the 3 buildings are all, let's just say all 3 of them get built, and their intent is to handle all 3 necessity, assisted, light care and then full care, could each building have all 3 things in it?
No,
That is I've seen that in several.
Then you'd only build 1 building. You'd build one,
Maybe you'd build one bigger building
one
with
big
more units,
building.
or.
But again,
All the care should be should be accessible to whatever person's in there, given.
well, let's, in your defense and for what you're, and I understand the rigors that you had to go through with a parent, and again, I would say that the people that are going to propose these things are going to more than likely come and tell us what exactly does work, because even though we have your idea of a plan, may not be one that is feasible to somebody to create.
They're all done that way. If you go to any assisted living or any independent
Well, then that's what
facility,
this guy's going to have to come in and show us.
they're all connected together. They all have a medical facility part of it, whether it's assisted or independent, there's doctors and
Dementia
nurses.
units, yeah, sure.
I'll leave that up to you when the guy shows up and drops his drawers and shows
My
us what he's
point
got.
is, it's a total
Can I
concept.
say that out loud?
Yes, unfortunately. So, in my experience as a building inspector, one of the things I do is periodic inspections, first for the city of Newton, before in Drake and now in Concord. So I go through all these different facilities, the Deaconess in Concord. I know what they look like, and there's tons of different ways that they look. That being said, this area might not be the right area for all of what we're talking about. This area could potentially be a high-density zoning for something else. So I don't want to tell him that go forward with all of this, but maybe we should talk about some high-density zoning for, one moment, for commuters.
But that's not our bylaw.
I'm
That's
just
an
saying that
entirely
before
different
we blow this piece of land up and it's all senior residential development, that I might actually ask this developer to not do it completely and to hold off and work through a portion of it, understanding that we're trying to do what's best for our town, what's best for our seniors, but ultimately not impact the school systems or the taxpayers. So we don't want to add to the services needed. We do want to provide for people that should be coming to our town. If we're taking care of just our seniors and we make everything senior residential development, then where are the young people going to live? So we have to be mindful of all those things. So one component that this board hasn't addressed, and I'm hoping that the next chair who sits in this position will take it up, is affordable housing for startup families, and because it's another big need that we're missing in this town. We're inviting in the people who are making it. I have a conscience, I care about the people who need help. I'm not looking to add to the services, but there's got to be a way to create affordable housing for startups as well. The young family with a single child or a single mom, single dad, a veteran coming back, they all need to be provided for. And I don't want to close the door just because, you know, the people that got here, and now they want to shut the door. A moratorium, anything like that is an insane idea. So I want to put it out there that this piece of property has a ton of amenities that could be provided in this town that maybe this one, as a standalone senior residential development, isn't everything. There's other options
But it's
here.
not just that piece of property. Mr. Kennard's piece is also, first-time home buyers can go there. Those condos that were there, first-time home buyers can go
Right.
there as well. It's the price point that's gonna dictate that more than where it's located.
Right.
That's my,
But the design criteria of the senior residential development bylaw puts an added expense on the developer.
Be careful of the
and
saturation.
the
of what
density
you're
that he
after.
gets gives him the added incentive to make them more cost-effective, so they kind of wash out that way. So you can have first-time home buyers in Cricket Lane, you can have first-time home buyers at,
Totally get it.
and you can have it here as well.
Right.
The only thing I was addressing was the fact that those are 3 apartment buildings.
Right.
That's not
Right. Well, you
real.
just
And I
said that one
understand
of
that
them.
you're looking for direction from them. All I'm trying to say is if you're going to give the kind of density that we talked about at town meeting,
Mm-hmm.
it has to be a total concept. It has to have, I hate to say it, from 55 to grave. It has to have, you have to have all the different, the dimensions, the senior daycare. It has to have that in there
Yeah,
too.
we got more important things to do, put money in their pocket, or transfer gold to theirs, gold to the grave. So in your defense, yes, and in yours defense, yes. So again, taking both of those things, when he shows up again, I want him to bring, you know.
He said he intends to.
Yeah, this is it.
I want to see a real,
Plan.
not just this, that, and the other stuff, and you get what you want, and then we're left with, no, it's.
Well, like I said, Peter, I'm here to,
Well, that's,
you know, I
that's,
live in this community, I want,
well, that's what
I
we're
want,
after.
yes, listen, I'm a
and it's not
developer,
just-
here for me is,
I understand that,
So,
and I know why you're here.
you know,
So,
but I'm
telling you
also
also
a town person.
that this is what we worked for, and this is what the chair,
Right.
and Mark for many years, and the whole board.
Of course.
We're here to try and do the right thing now after all these years to make sure that the elderly that are here can stay here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the new ones coming in, yeah, great, we'd like to take care of them also, but again, we're not a charity outfit either, but we want to make it, Littleton has been primarily built on the blue collar, and now there's not many of us left. What's the average builder? What's the age of an average builder in Massachusetts?
I forget.
56.
Not old.
Huh? I mean,
Not
that
old, I
old, yeah.
forget.
So, there's not a lot of people getting into the trade, so if we can't make this a community for all, then it's gonna be a tough sell no matter how we look at it. But first and foremost, I think we need to take care of the elderly. That's the first one that I think that we're after. And that's where it started friggin', dang, I said that word. That's a Newfoundland word for, I forgot what I was gonna say. Okay? So, that's where we stand, and again, a proposal I think would look better with more than just this.
Right, and again, I came here looking for some guidance. So my question to you, since it seems like the assisted portion of this, the 3 buildings down on the MBTA, on the train and on the 495, it seems like it's kind of a gray area of what the town needs and wants.
Right, well, I think the assisted is a want
Yeah.
and a need.
Okay.
I think 300 apartment buildings, obviously you've heard that that's not a desire.
Right.
You mix in the independent and the assisted into one complex,
I'm good with that.
and then you're showing progress that would satisfy the board, I think. One of the things that you don't show on here, which I think would be beneficial, is the open space.
Sure.
And more than just the,
Wetlands.
I knew that was coming as soon as I mentioned it.
well, we have this issue.
So, and the walkability of this property as well. So, all that stuff, so. Peter, I know you have a question, I'd like you to ask it because I heard it, so please ask it.
You go ahead.
379 to 419.
I said that out loud?
Yes.
Jesus. I gotta stop paying attention.
And how many units up here? I can't count.
Up top.
What'd you say,
Up top is
317?
35. 379.
317 To 279.
So you're showing 35
Yes.
cottage in townhouse mix?
That's right, and I may change up as far as the townhouses and maybe put rows of 4 together instead of the 2.
This is way more architectural pleasing.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Really, this looks great. I wouldn't go change it too much.
So my question to the board is, are you guys at a point now where I can phase this property out and get different permits, or file as one permit, but get a file for, so basically I see 3 phases here. Phase 1 being the commercial and the parking. Phase 2, which can really go with Phase 1, is the cottages and townhouses, and Phase 3 being assisted independent.
Okay.
And so forth.
So let me start off by saying, no, the commercial can't be first.
Yep.
Because it has to be an amenity to the housing.
Sure.
So if you were looking at 3 phases,
So
it would be
2
my
phases.
opinion, it would be my opinion to start with the cottages and the townhouses. If you wanted to construct the parking at the same time, depending on how we walk through that, and I'd have to get direction for our board, those 2 components possibly, and then the commercial component shortly thereafter or in stride, but I think we'd have to see a few housing units online.
Sure.
Before the commercial could begin.
Sure.
So that would be my direction. I don't know if the board feels differently.
I want to see assisted living being in half the houses maybe something, but I want to make sure the assisted living portion of that is done before any of.
Well, I think so I hear you.
But again, if he does it in 2 phases, and him being 1 phase and a whole nother purchaser, operator of the assisted living and all that is somebody else, and they can do it nip and tuck, you know?
Well, I think
Doesn't I do this and I take the money and build that?
I agree with Ed, the commercial's the sticky one, and I have a difference of opinion as to commercial or the amenities that go with these. Amenities are not a liquor store and a convenience store and a beauty salon. Amenities
no,
to
but a first aid center and adult daycare.
That's not in it.
A convenience store.
That's inside these units.
Well,
The amenities inside the units are a place for them the people to go, to congregate, to hang out, so that they can all be with their friends. Maybe a swimming pool, maybe a gym that they can all go to. It's not.
Well, there'd be a gym inside of the apartments. It's
the whole.
you would propose that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But that's not an amenity.
No, he's saying a gym inside.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That's not a commercial component to these.
He's not saying a commercial. He's
I'm
saying
saying-
an amenity in the unit.
I get
Let's
that.
let him say it when he shows us the next time.
All
We
I'm
don't need
saying
to argue
is-
for him.
I'm saying is the amenities are not, a commercial component is not really an amenity for these. That's
Okay.
my point.
If that's your opinion, I disagree with it, but I appreciate it and respect it. That being said, I also know in my past life as a builder developer, that a commercial component here also limits the amount of traffic on Foster Street because they can stop there and buy their coffee. And that was.
That's not an amenity that
I'm
goes with
just saying.
senior housing.
I'm just-
Sorry.
Well, it goes with the
Condiment
complex.
or
Or
decency.
condominiums, that's not an amenity for those. Sorry. That's a,
You can have your opinion.
That's
I
a-
respect
That's a money-making,
that's a Dunkin' Donuts, that's all that is. And I'm not saying that's not okay, because you have commuter rails here. If you want to put a kiosk in and put a Dunkin' Donuts and a little convenience stuff for that, that's different. That's
Well,
not
if we
part
do
of the
that, we're talking about rezoning.
Well, that's what this really is. That's all I'm trying to say. This is really rezoning. This is not, the amenities that you're trying to put here and call it commercial for the seniors and affordable and all that other, is not. It's really rezoning.
You don't see that that's beneficial to the
No,
development?
not at all.
To the people living there?
No, that's not what the amenities for an assisted living or an independent living facility are all about.
But
It's
beneficial
about-
to seniors, I couldn't disagree with you more.
It's about what the seniors need. Places for them to congregate.
We're talking about creating a campus with a walkable community. I mean, how far do you want them to walk to go get a cup of coffee?
It'll be inside their facility. They can walk down to the
you build it,
restaurant.
a guy that built some very large buildings, not me, or in a previous life, a gentleman I know, he says, if you build a real good community center, he says, you can sell them Coleman pop-up tents. He says, the community center is what the elderly want. They want the compatibility.
They want to play cards with their
They
friends.
want-
So let me
they
ask
want.
you this.
So
So
anyways,
building
can
on
we
what you're
move
saying,
on?
no,
Okay.
I'm not done. So you can't move on because I am the chair.
I asked, through the chair, can we move on?
Would that commercial component work inside the facility?
Well, I mean,
What's he putting in it? I mean, what's your intent in that thing? Have you asked him yet? I thought he wanted to put a restaurant.
I think with the first time he came in, he was talking about
A restaurant.
dry cleaner,
Yep,
uh,
a restaurant.
a restaurant, but you were also talking about, give me the medical ones, not the daycare, but like a urgent care facility, perhaps.
So these folks, that's how I misinterpreted what they said. They're not a walk-in, an elderly or a senior walk-in clinic. It's a daycare for, that's what they are. That they have RNs and so forth that can.
See, I agree with that.
Well, that's what
It's the
that's what I'm-
restaurant, the coffee, the beauty
You
salon.
can't tell me that those amenities wouldn't
They'd
benefit.
be inside the facility. You want to go to, there's a coffee shop
I think that
downstairs.
Look at
This
it.
is
golf
the one
simulators would really work for the seniors up there.
Right, this is the one site that's industrial A instead of residential, so we have to remember what's allowed in industrial A that we don't have to worry about. It's the retail sales that's not allowed, is the only thing. You could have a restaurant.
Could or could not?
Could. All right.
If I'm remembering right, this.
We're done. Yeah, why don't we need to sort this out amongst, obviously, we all have different opinions. We need to kind of think about this ourselves.
Mine's the only one that matters.
No.
Once you get used to that.
You'll be,
Did they pick that up on?
anyway. We look forward to
I'm
seeing
mumbling
what you
enough, it
come up
doesn't take
with.
anything.
And I think you can phase it. I think,
Yeah, I think the phase approach would be good, but I think starting off with the housing first. would be-
Yeah,
well, we got to see the whole thing.
Right. Come back with
and I
more
would,
information.
and I'll have a full-scale drawing and so forth for is it March 1? The next meeting?
Yes.
The next regular meeting.
We're trying to work on a meeting for, how many, if we schedule it?
We can't do him on that, the day we're
I'm
doing
not asking, I'm asking what's the other date? It was 22nd.
February 22nd, but you
But
wouldn't
if we
get
want to put
materials
other
beforehand.
items on the agenda, we can talk about it, because I don't want to have a single meeting just with the select committee to assemble for that. I'd like to get other board business done. So I'll have Maren put together an agenda once we pick a date and put more than just the marijuana discussion on that agenda, so we get some things done.
Okay, so
Do the sidewalks.
when I come back, the board is looking for full-scale drawing, schematics of architectural renderings of everything.
Why don't you include this in a regular meeting? Let's,
I didn't say I wasn't gonna. Go on.
And the board is okay with phasing it with two different phases as far as the housing and the parking? And whatever we all decide as a team
As an
with the
assisted
commercial
living, independent.
portion and then
Right.
the assisted?
Well, I think Peter wanted the assisted to be part of the first phase. So we should talk about it more. That's why when you come back,
Yeah.
show us what you have, give us an idea of how you'd like to phase it as opposed to what we're talking about, and maybe we can come to a consensus at that time as well.
Okay,
But don't forget to show us the open space.
yeah. Yep. Okay.
Any input from the public?
Jenny Houston, Meeting House Road. So one of the key aspects that I think might be important is that the Council on Aging's friends, supporters are definitely still looking for additional space. So if a community center specifically geared toward seniors' needs could be developed on this site, talking to folks, Barbara McCrae, for example, at Friends, might be a good person in terms of what kinds of amenities or needs they would be looking at in that type of a senior center.
Okay, thank you for that. Please put that down on your list, Doug. All right,
are we done?
hold on a minute. Does anybody else have anything else?
Well, we need to give him an idea of when his next meeting is. I don't think we should.
I think we'll schedule it offline.
You should probably tell them right now, don't you think, or you want to do it
I'm
later?
No,
gonna comment on
I think everybody else is gonna be scheduled offline as well, that we talked to tonight, so.
I'm good, I know Martin's not.
If you're gonna come in, I'd like to have you come in for a regular meeting, but
Sure.
that being said,
Okay.
we'll do it when we have a chance. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye, thank you.
Thank you.
See, you're all right, see, you did listen.